Why did the Mavs trade Luka Doncic? No one expected it, but it happened. Luka Doncic is now a Los Angeles Laker. For years, he was the heart and soul of the Dallas Mavericks, lighting up the court with jaw-dropping performances and clutch plays. But in a shocking move, the Mavericks traded their franchise cornerstone, leaving fans and analysts scrambled for answers. Was it a strategic decision or a sign of deeper issues in Dallas? And how will this blockbuster trade reshape the future for both teams? Well, in this video, we will break down the shocking details, explore the motivations behind the trade, and predict how this will reshape the future of the NBA. Buckle up, this is one wild ride. The shocking news. Undeniably, the NBA world was rocked when the Dallas Mavericks made the unthinkable decision to trade Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers. There were no rumors, no leaks, just an absolute bombshell as news broke late at night, catching fans off guard. Shams Charania was the first to report it, and even he thought he'd been hacked. Most people knew nothing about it.
Players, coaches, a lot of people on both sides with the Mavericks and Lakers had no idea. I can assuredly tell you it's a fact. LeBron James had no idea this was coming. Anthony Davis had no idea this was coming. I'm told Luka Doncic is still stunned about this trade.
The idea of the Mavericks trading Luka wasn't just surprising, it was unthinkable. Luka was Dallas. He was the franchise. The only way he was leaving, most assumed, was through retirement or a statue unveiling. Then the confirmations started rolling in. ESPN, WOJ, The Athletic, everyone was saying the same thing. It was real. The Mavericks had sent Luka Doncic to the Lakers in a deal that would go down as one of the biggest in modern NBA history. Social media exploded. Fans didn't know whether to be excited, furious, or just completely confused. For Maverick fans, it was devastation. They had spent years watching Luka develop into one of the most gifted players in the league, carrying the team night after night, often with little help. It felt personal. People started blaming the front office, demanding explanations, and flooding Mark Cuban's mentions. The idea of watching Luka in purple and gold was sickening. Laker fans, on the other hand, were in absolute chaos, but the good kind. Within minutes, videos surfaced of fans celebrating, some even rushing to customize Luka Lakers jerseys before they were officially on sale. With LeBron and Luka teaming up, this is surely a new era. But how did this actually happen? The trade details. When the dust settled and the initial shock wore off, the details of the trade finally started to come into focus. And according to Shams Charania, the Mavericks hadn't just given away Luka Doncic. They had made a calculated, high-risk move that they believed would reshape the franchise.
The Mavericks believing Anthony Davis gives this team with Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, and the rest of this roster a better chance to win a championship than with Luka Doncic.
So, in return for their superstar, Dallas received Anthony Davis and additional assets to help balance the trade. It wasn't a straight-up swap. Yes, Davis is one of the best two-way players in the NBA, an elite defender and a proven champion. The Mavericks front office, led by Nico Harrison, had been vocal about their need for defensive toughness, and they saw AD as the answer. He could anchor their defense, provide scoring in the post, and take pressure off Kyrie Irving. But the concerns were obvious. Davis had struggled with injuries for years. Some fans saw this as a massive downgrade, a fragile star replacing one of the most durable and dominant offensive forces in the league. The Lakers, on the other hand, had paid a steep price, but in their eyes, it was worth it. They had to part ways with Davis, a franchise cornerstone, and they also sent 2 unprotected first-round picks, a 2025 pick swap, and young role players to Dallas. Losing Davis hurt, but the Lakers had been preparing for this moment. Financially, the trade had major implications. Luka was in the middle of a massive Supermax contract, which meant the Lakers had to offload salary to make it work. Davis's contract helped balance the numbers, but the Lakers still had to move a few additional pieces, most notably Austin Reeves and Jared Vanderbilt, to third teams to create space. The Mavericks, meanwhile, took on Davis's remaining contract, but also gained valuable draft capital, giving them the flexibility to make more moves in the future. But why did they do it? Mavericks reason. You see, when the Mavericks front office finally addressed the trade, the explanation felt logical, but that didn't mean it was convincing. General Manager Nico Harrison stood in front of the cameras and said what you'd expect. This was a tough decision, but one we felt was necessary for the future of our team. He emphasized balance, defense, and sustainability. He talked about building a complete team instead of relying on one player to carry the load. But no matter how carefully he worded it, the underlying message was clear. Dallas didn't believe they could win a championship with Luka Doncic. The Mavericks have been trying to construct a title-contending roster around Luka for years, but every attempt either fell short or backfired. Kristaps Porzingis was supposed to be the perfect co-star, but injuries and inconsistency turned that experiment into a failure. Jalen Brunson emerged as a legitimate second option, but Dallas let him walk in free agency. The Kyrie Irving trade was a last-ditch effort to give Luka the help he needed, but the fit wasn't seamless, and there were questions about whether the two could truly coexist long-term. Even when Luka was putting up MVP-level numbers, the Mavericks were struggling to stay competitive in a stacked Western Conference. Then came the defensive argument.
And then as we turn the page, I think it's important to know that Jay Kidd and I, we've had a vision in the culture that we want to create since we've been here. And the players that we're bringing in, we believe exemplify that. And, we think defense wins championships.
Harrison and head coach Jason Kidd had been hammering the idea that defense wins championships for months. Dallas had been one of the worst defensive teams in the league, and they believed that no matter how good Luka was, they weren't going to win anything if they couldn't get stops. Anthony Davis, when healthy, is one of the most dominant defenders in the NBA. The front office saw this as a chance to reset, shift their identity, and build a team that didn't rely entirely on one player's scoring brilliance. Of course, there were also the unspoken factors. Luka had never outright said he wanted out, but there were rumblings. He had voiced frustration with the team's performance in the past. There were reports of tension behind the scenes and concerns that he wasn't happy with the direction of the franchise. Some speculated that Dallas made the move now to avoid the nightmare scenario of Luka eventually demanding a trade on his own terms. If they were going to lose him, it would be better to control the process and maximize the return. Whatever the real reason, one thing is certain. The Mavericks are betting against their own superstar. Now, they only have to hope they didn't just make the biggest mistake in franchise history. On the other hand, you might be wondering, why did the Lakers do it? Lakers reason. The Lakers don't make moves like other teams. Everything they do is about two things: winning championships and maintaining their place as the most powerful franchise in the NBA. Trading for Luka Doncic wasn't just about adding a superstar. It was about securing the future. And if there's one thing the Lakers have always prioritized, it's making sure they have the next great face of the league in purple and gold. LeBron James may not be running the front office on paper, but his influence on roster decisions has been obvious since the day he arrived in LA. This was no different. He has always understood that his time in the league is limited, and if the Lakers were going to keep competing for titles as he neared the end of his career, they needed a seamless transition. Anthony Davis was supposed to be that bridge, the player who would take the torch when LeBron finally stepped away. But between injuries, inconsistency, and questions about whether Davis was truly capable of being a franchise leader, it became clear the Lakers weren't convinced he was the long-term answer. Luka was. Landing Doncic meant the Lakers wouldn't have to go through another painful rebuild after LeBron retires. They wouldn't have to scramble for the next superstar in free agency or hope a draft pick will turn into something special. They would have a 25-year-old generational talent locked in, ready to carry the franchise for the next decade. So, from a front office perspective, it is a no-brainer. They were willing to move mountains for a chance at Luka, and when the Mavericks showed any sign of doubt about their ability to build around him, the Lakers pounced. And was Luka happy? Luka's perspective. This guy doesn't say much when it comes to off-court drama, but his face usually tells the story. When reporters finally caught up with him after the trade, he was calm, almost detached. "It's the NBA. Things happen," he said, offering little insight into how he truly felt. But for those who had been following his career, there was no doubt. This was not the ending he had imagined in Dallas. For years, Luka had been the Mavericks' everything. He put up historic numbers, carried them deep into the playoffs, and made it clear that he wanted to win in Dallas. But the frustration had been building. He had hinted at it in post-game interviews, in body language on the court, and in subtle movements where he looked exhausted, not just physically, but mentally. The Mavericks had tried to surround him with the right pieces, but every move seemed to fall short. The front office didn't pan out. The Kyrie Irving trade was exciting, but it didn't immediately turn Dallas into a contender. So Luka was expecting to do everything, and after a short while, it became clear that despite his love for the city, this wasn't sustainable. Even so, the trade caught him off guard. He had given everything to the franchise, and in return, they decided to move on. Did he feel betrayed? He wouldn't say it outright, but you could sense it. Still, Luka isn't the type to dwell on what-ifs. The moment the trade became official, his focus shifted. If Dallas didn't believe they could build a championship team around him, then fine. He'd win one with someone else.
I'm just excited, to be here to start this new journey. And obviously, at some point I knew this was going to happen, but I would say I always take the high road,
The Lakers offered him something different. History, prestige, and a team that isn't just hoping to win, but expecting to. Playing alongside LeBron James is something he had dreamed about since he was a teenager, watching highlights in Slovenia. Now, it is reality. And while there are questions about how he'd fit, Luka isn't worried. He is used to adapting, used to carrying a team, and now, for the first time in his career, he is not alone. This is a new chapter, and if there's one thing everyone knows about Luka Doncic, it is that he plays best when he has something to prove. So, what do you think about this blockbuster trade? Did the Mavericks make a mistake, or will the Lakers regret this move in the long run? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one.